In this video, I'll be taking you through the written records that centres need to keep for the practical endorsement. These minimum requirements were communicated in a letter to centres at the beginning of June 2015 and are to be included in the JCQ instructions for conducting non-exam assessment. If you haven't seen the letter to centres, it is available from the OCR website. The records will need to be available for review when you receive a monitoring visit. The monitor will use the records to ensure that the centre is implementing the practical endorsement appropriately. There are 6 things to record. Firstly, a plan to carry out sufficient practical activities which meet the requirements of the practical endorsement. This is because the monitoring visits will be during the 2 years of the course, not at the end. If you need a reminder of what those requirements are, see our separate video on how the practical endorsement works. So this plan will be a scheme of work, or at least an identified set of practical activities that your students will complete across the 2-year A-level course. You'll need to be able to show that your activities cover all the requirements. If you're using activities provided by OCR, these are already mapped against the requirements. If you are using activities sourced elsewhere or developed yourself, which is absolutely fine in the OCR model, you'll just need to have mapped these against the criteria yourself. Secondly, as you teach the course, you must keep a record of each practical activity undertaken and the date on which it was completed. Of course, the dates, or indeed the activities, may vary across the multiple teaching groups. Number 3 is for each practical activity that students do, you need a record of the criteria being assessed in that activity. You should already have worked this out when planning which activities you would carry out. Number 4 is a record of student attendance. Remember that if a student is absent on the day you run an activity, they can be given an opportunity to catch up at a later date. Alternatively, if there are other opportunities in your scheme of work for candidates to complete the same techniques and skills and be assessed against the same criteria, they wouldn't necessarily have to catch up on that particular activity. However, you must ensure that they complete the minimum of 12 activities and at least 1 from each of the practical activity groups in the OCR model. Number 5 is details of which candidates met the criteria you are looking at and which did not. The minimum requirements are merely for a yes or no judgment. You do not have to support this with details about how you reached each judgment. You may wish, though, to keep more detailed records for your own purposes, such as providing student feedback and meeting your centre marking policy. Finally, you will need to have available any associated materials provided for each practical activity, such as written records or worksheets. We have produced a tracker spreadsheet for each science that you may find useful in keeping track of the activities you have completed, student attendance and performance against identified criteria. The tracker is set up to save you a lot of effort, in particular if you use activities provided by OCR. You can also add additional activities and map these against the requirements. The OCR trackers are available to be downloaded from Interchange. If you have any further questions about record keeping for the practical endorsement or any other aspects of the new A-levels, do drop us a line.